All right, guys, so welcome back to my channel. Lovely to have you guys here. So today, I'm Annakay. Let me introduce myself first. And from the title, we're going to be talking about some very, very touchy topic today. So I have Rochelle with me today, and we're going to be dealing with birth trauma and PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And that's mainly to do with birth and pregnancy. All right. If you yourself have experienced PTSD or you experienced a birth trauma during any birth of your child or children, and that's something that interests you want to share, then stay tuned. Welcome back, guys, and I'm here, like I said, with Rochelle. I'm Annakay again, for those of you who are visiting for the first time. It's going to be a little bit of a heavier topic today compared to the others. Usually I educate you about anything to do with nursing, migrating to the UK. In fact, we are both nurses that migrated from Jamaica to the UK. So please welcome Rochelle. All right. So today I am going to be talking to you a little bit about your pregnancy journey, your birth journey, and after delivery. All right. So like Rochelle, and for my viewers that are not aware, so I'm currently doing my master's in midwifery, and we have been hitting some very, very profound topics. So it's about the psychology of midwifery. So it's about the woman's experience as they give birth. And Rochelle is a very, very good friend of mine, and I know that she's okay to open and share. This is a very sensitive topic. If there's anybody that this topic will affect in any way, shape, or form, and you need to seek help and advice on the issue, then we would advise that you do seek the necessary help. I know that for the UK, there is an association called Birth Trauma Association that you can actually contact them. I'll leave the link in the description below, or the website in the description below, Birth Trauma Association, and you can get support from them. So if anything at all in this stream, though, this live stream or this recording triggers you, please do seek help. It's not our intention to trigger anyone. We just want to give an avenue for women to discuss, because we realize that women sometimes feel that they're unheard during especially the delivery experience, but more so the birth experience. All right. So to begin with, I've got some questions for Rochelle. All right. And we're going to be going through them together. So firstly, how many children do you have, Rochelle?
One child.
One child. And how old is your?
1 year of age and 2 months and couple weeks. Yeah.
Okay, so for those, because obviously I know Rochelle's son, but for those who don't know, she's got a 1-year-old child. He's just over 1 year. So she's very, very new to the mothering and birthing journey. All right. So first question, before you actually experience having a baby, what did you think giving birth would be like? What did you actually envision in your head?
Well, truly, giving birth wasn't much of an issue. More of it was the before problems, like the excessive nauseousness, headache, confusion. I wanted to get pregnant. That was a plan. But after getting pregnant, I was scared to tell persons that I was pregnant, only because I was not feeling the pregnancy. It was only like 2 weeks within the pregnancy that I felt myself. Starting out, the excessive nauseousness and the vomiting felt like I was about to bring up back the baby. And then, and I thought that pregnancy was all this glow. Honestly, this social media platform was giving me a different idea, like watching multiple shows talking about, the beauty of the baby kicking. Even that became annoying to me at one point.
Wow.
Yeah. It felt as though the baby was like on my intestine, like wringing it apart and punching every organ in the body at one point. It was beautiful at first. You're feeling a little butterflies, but then after a while, it was just the worst. And then the delivery.
Before we go to the delivery, so in terms of in your, like you said, what people was, portraying pregnancy to be like, actual having the baby, so the actual delivery process, without going too much into any much details as yet, because we're going to get there. What you experienced, is that what you had in mind?
No. I had in mind that vaginal delivery was, I knew that it was hard. I've seen shows where, you have the husband inside. So I was thinking, oh, I'm going to have my husband inside and I'm going to hold his hand tight and scream and, push.
Yeah.
However, for me, it wasn't that case. Yes, I
Right.
was planning that I would have gotten epidural, to be honest. That was my choice. But then or have C-section if I could choose. However, I've chosen too fast. I've chosen too fast because I end up and had C-section, which was not planned, and the baby did not come to full term 9 months.
Yeah.
So
All
what I thought it
right.
was not.
Was not. That wasn't your experience.
Yeah.
And what age were you, if you don't mind? Because studies are showing
So that's
different things. What age were
I was
you
I was
when
I
you
was
had
30 years of age when I had
30?
my son.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what, so you said you had a cesarean section. So you had in mind to have a vaginal delivery, holding your husband's hand, and the story of what we see in the movies or maybe even watching birth
The
programs, right?
baby
So,
crying coming out, all of that,
all
yeah.
right.
And I crying, and I'm
And you
crying.
cried. So, what was the worst aspect of your birth experience? So, this is now the actual birth experience, your labor.
So I'm in labor. So before going to labor, it was an emergency. I started to bleed, and honestly, the first thing I was like, "Don't tell me the baby coming right now." I went down. I was rushed down to delivery. After being rushed down to delivery, as a nurse, we have always tell our patient, "Oh, we're going to insert a urinary catheter. It will be, it just a little discomfort." Oh my God, I was running up the bed, and holding on to the nurse's hand, to be honest. And then that was that, and then they come in to tell you everything that might be happening. And trust me, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I am not at term, the lungs is not developed. What is this? I want to remember then IV access being put in my hands and them telling me the worst thing that can happen. And the worst was it's either me or the baby of both of us. And I
Yeah.
had to sign a paper to give the consent for them to go ahead with the birth.
In that part where you say that they were giving you so much information, because some of the things that I'm coming to understand now is that
Yeah.
some women feel as though weren't given enough information. So would you say that you were given enough information, or is it that, because you're a nurse as well, you sort of have a sort of an idea of what is
Yeah.
happening, or would you outrightly say there wasn't enough information? Did you get enough information to make that informed decision? Because you signed a consent, you said.
I have to be honest. I might be speaking on. I'm going to speak on the aspect as being a nurse, to be honest, because I can't speak for anybody else. As a nurse, I had an idea before, and that's why I knew that my son lungs was not developed as yet.
Right.
Um,
How many weeks gestation were you at this point? Because you speak about
I
this
was I was 24 weeks and 4 days. We go straight up to about 4, and they wanted me to go to 37, so I was nowhere near.
Okay.
So definitely it was scary. Yes, they said to me, Nurse Thomas, I know you know this, and I know you know what the worst scenario can be, but we still have to tell you. And to be honest, I was educated.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, that urinary catheter being put. So the only problem at that situation was that meanwhile they're doing all of that, you're telling me that was the only situation. So I was blocked off from some of the things because I was in pain.
Yeah.
Right? Not because I wasn't having pain for delivery. It was
Yeah.
painless. What I had was a painless scenario until after surgery.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of the informations, definitely. I got most of
They
the
give you the
information.
information.
Yeah.
So you delivered, you mentioned 24 weeks, and then you said they wanted you to go up to 34 weeks. At the time of delivery, how many weeks did you actually deliver?
34, 4 days.
34 weeks.
34 weeks, 4 days, exact.
34 weeks, 4 days. Okay. So just wanted to
Yeah.
be clear because you had mentioned 24 weeks. I want the viewers to understand that there's some
Oh,
people that
no,
listen
sorry,
to that
34
conversation.
weeks,
But
34.
at 24 weeks, what happened? Because I know a bit of your history. At
Yeah.
24 weeks, is that when they diagnosed you with what you had, which was a placenta?
My complete placenta privia,
Mm-hmm.
which you'd love to educate them about after, is was diagnosed at about early 20 week, about 21, 22 week, to be honest. And
Wow.
then at 23 week, I was already bleeding, not knowing that I had it. So it was when I went to the hospital, then I had run tests, and then they had come to the conclusion that it was indeed one of the worst,
Which is the
placenta
placenta.
previa, which
So
was complete.
placenta previa, guys, for those who are not aware, is basically, so that placenta is attached to the uterus, basically from implantation, and it develops. But placenta previa is when the placenta is coming away from the walls of the placenta. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rochelle. So it's coming
Right.
away from the walls of the placenta, and it does cause bleeding. This can actually cause the placenta to be delivered before the baby. So it is really, it's an emergency. So we have placenta previa, we have placenta accreta, placenta abrupta. So it wasn't the accreta or the abrupta, but the previa, which would have been causing you to be having some bleedings in your pregnancy at that early stage, right?
So it
Oh,
was, yeah, definitely what you said. So it was coming off the wall, and the biggest thing about placenta, complete placenta previa, was, I think Jamaicans call it afterbirth. No, this wouldn't
the
have been an
placenta is the
afterbirth. This would have
afterbirth.
been a birth. Like the
Mm,
placenta would have come out first, but the baby
right,
should have.
right.
This covered the entire cervix. It covered
So
the entire cervix, and
that would
that's
have
when
been
they
the,
made.
so is that when they made the decision to deliver you?
Yeah. No, no,
Okay,
no. I had bled first at about 23 weeks.
right. But at
So
23 weeks,
I had done what I was supposed to do, my
mhm,
ultrasound, and they
mhm,
said, she said that it was partial. My husband
mhm,
was worried about what it was, and I educated him. But she said that it possibly would have passed. When I went in, I was not planning for them to say that. I was actually going in thinking that I have lost the baby, because I started to bleed. So I went in, I rushed in, and then that's when they had diagnosed me that the entire cervix is being covered with the placenta, and they don't know how long I can hold it for. They did a very thorough, complete
so and this was at 34 weeks.
assessment. And this, no, I went in at 23 weeks.
Mhm,
Right. And when I went in, that's when they have diagnosed me. Before going in, I was bleeding, and that's why I went in. After
mhm.
that 23 weeks, I spent at least about 2 weeks in the hospital, and they said, "You are a nurse. We are sending you home on some heparin." Then, when I went home on bed rest, I had to come back because I had the same set of bleeding again. I came back in at about possibly 29 weeks.
Okay,
When I came back into the hospital at 29 weeks, they wanted me to stay up until 37 weeks, but
mm,
unfortunately, that didn't happen.
you're right.
Yeah.
So for 29 weeks, you were there up until delivery.
Yes. I was there
So
for weeks. Yeah, definitely.
what exactly happened at the point when they said they need to deliver via C-section? That's what I'm trying to get at. At that point, when they made a decision, if you can remember, what happened? What made them decide that they need to deliver this baby now?
Okay, just as you said, what it
Mhm.
was, what placenta previa was,
Previa.
the complete was as well.
Okay.
So what had happened was that the placenta, yeah,
Mhm,
as you said, it was coming off the wall.
mhm.
It was going to be delivered, and if it was delivered before the baby was delivered, that would have been a death.
That's what. Okay, so that's what
Yeah,
brought the emergency. Okay,
that's
good.
what brought the emergency.
Oh, all right. So what was it like for you before I get to this? So your baby was delivered at 34 weeks. Baby actually was left in the hospital because baby was only 34 weeks and they were trying to develop his lungs and everything, right? So talk us through that experience for you having to, you're on labor ward or you're on postnatal. The baby wasn't with you. Did they take baby straight to NICU at delivery?
All right. So first, as I said, you have watched TV, and when the baby comes out, one of the things that they do is, they hear the baby crying. They remove the baby, and the baby wasn't crying. The
Mm,
baby wasn't crying, and I was there. They have covered half of me. The baby wasn't crying. And then I
mm,
said, "What's going on with the baby?" And they said, "We come in, Nurse Thomas." And then
mm.
the baby started to cry. Then they
Okay.
brought the baby over my head. And remember, as I said, I've watched TV where the baby is crying and you are crying, but at this point, the
Yeah.
baby wasn't crying, meaning I'm already calculating the Apgar score in my head.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like,
So,
something
and
ain't
what
right.
at that point, did they say anything to you when the baby wasn't crying or
No,
no?
they did not. They
Mhm.
didn't say anything. They just said, "We're coming with him, Nurse Thomas. We're just cleaning him up." That's
Okay.
what they said.
So they probably
And
would have worked up a
there was this nurse on my hand. She was just touching my hand and she was just whispering in my ears, "We're going
yeah,
to be fine. We're going to be fine." She was so supportive.
lovely. Where was your husband at this time?
Oh,
Was he at home?
outside.
He was there with you?
He got the call that I was bleeding, and he knew that it was going to be time, and he came to the hospital. But by the time he was on the outside,
Mhm.
I was already rushed inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was just on the
So
outside waiting on you.
he was literally on the outside in the cold waiting, to be honest. Anyway, so that happened, and me going back to now, me leaving the baby in the hospital. But first, may I say, I rushed my discharge. I rushed my discharge, and let me be honest, I was terrified. But
Talk about that.
I was also envious, and I was also very bad mind. Honestly, in Jamaican terms, super bad mind. I was very envious because when I got delivered and I was placed in a private room, it wasn't me alone. It was me and my thought. And to be
Oh,
honest, the medication that they gave to me knocked the hell out of me. So I was so drowsy. Yes, I know that my baby wasn't good, but I was so drowsy. So I was in and out of sleep, in and out of sleep. But then when I did wake and I was informed, of course, I was shattered. I laid in the bed, and I remember nurses coming to visit me and everybody coming to visit me and tell me congratulations. I didn't want any congratulations, because congratulations for what?
mm,
Honestly, for what reason? What happened? I didn't. Where's the baby? He's down here
mm,
suffering. Like what? I didn't say that to them. I didn't feel like I deserved the congratulation. Then they told me that there was two more persons that I delivered.
mhm,
There was two more persons that I delivered, and I would not be in here any longer alone. And trust me, envious took me over.
okay,
I
so
did not.
they brought the ladies that delivered with their
No, they
babies.
didn't come up as yet. They didn't
Okay.
come up as yet. They were just telling me to look out for two other nurses that had delivered, and they're coming up. Now,
Mhm,
in my head, I'm saying, I'm not stay so. I'm not stay so with nobody with them, baby. That's not going to work out. So
mm,
I had to speed up my discharge. Dr. Iggy, may soul rest in peace.
right,
He
mm,
was the one that I had reached out to, and I had vented the way I felt about not staying any longer. And I had to learn to walk all over again because I had spinal.
mhm,
Honestly, I couldn't walk. I don't know why. I just could not walk. And my husband came up and we had learned to walk again. I had used the bathrooms. I passed all the tests so I can go home. And I went home.
So did you go
No,
home before these ladies came to you?
yes, I
Okay.
was not going to be there because the other ladies that had their
Did you
baby
Can I
was
ask
on
you,
the outside.
did you
So
have a
I could not
choice?
have seen. I could have not. I could not have seen the babies. I couldn't
Yeah,
hear them and I
yeah,
could not see them. So it wasn't a bothered. I
at
was
that
by
point.
myself and I was just worried about my child. But for you to come up and then have a child beside me, no, bad mind take right over.
Oh,
No, I wasn't going to. I just think that it is unfair to have people that have either lost their child or their child is they don't have their child with them, and then you put them beside persons that
they're nurturing their own child.
no, it's
Child's
very
crying.
traumatic. I was
Mm,
thinking about myself. I wasn't thinking about my child at the time, no joke. So,
mhm.
anyways, I went home to the answer. I went home and it was the worst feeling. It was the worst feeling ever. My
Why
husband
was
did not
that?
want me to leave. I remember him asking the doctor if they really have to discharge me. And I was like, I haven't been home in a while. Why would you not want me to? But he would
Mm,
not have expressed himself because I was very angry. Nothing he said nor they said could have
mm,
helped the way how I felt. And I was just thinking at the moment about myself, honestly, that
okay.
I just want to go home because I'm not staying with them. I
Mhm.
went home and it was the worst decision
Wow.
because now I am home and I am bawling because
Mm,
I feel like I have left my child alone. It's very emotional, honestly, because
mm,
just going back to the time of, can you imagine you had the opportunity to go down at a certain time, but I had a privilege as a nurse to go back every single day.
okay.
So it wasn't really of a bother at the time when I made the decision to go home. Anyway, left the baby at the hospital, went home, I spoke to my mom on the phone, and after she was like, how the breast? I said, the breast all right, me just missing man, worry. And I
Mhm.
was like ready to go to bed or possible just, just sleep it off. And as she hung up the phone, it was my eyes balling and my
Wow.
breasts started to swell.
Okay.
So tears coming, I mean fluid coming from both angles. And I
Okay.
was devastated. I
Okay.
feel looking back at it,
It
would
was
I
a
have still
hard
went
decision.
home?
It was hard
Yes,
to leave. Well, it
it was
wasn't hard to leave at the
very,
time, but when
it
you
was
was at
very
home,
bad to
it was
leave him.
difficult. Okay. It
And
was
then
difficult.
every day I had to go back and look for him. But every day that I went to see him and then I had to leave, I
Mhm.
felt like I have let him down, and I
Wow.
am not being there. It was
Wow.
just awful. It was
What
just
about
awful.
support? Did you have support at home? I know you had your
Yeah,
husband. I don't know if he was working. You had
yeah.
support. Yeah.
He was great, and
Mhm.
until now he is great. I had my husband, my friends, my
Yeah.
family. I had just lost my dad, so I I didn't tell anyone though. I gave birth and I did not tell. I only told my mom. My
Hmm.
mom told my aunt. My
Oh, so
brother
only the
knew.
family didn't know, your immediate, your
No,
family. Okay.
no.
Wow.
As I said, I didn't want any congratulation. Congratulation for what? I felt
Okay.
like I failed myself. Is my body not, equipped with carrying a child? I'm 30. What's going on? I should have
Okay.
been well developed to bring a child. So therefore, I just didn't want. So they didn't know. I didn't tell anyone. It was
Okay.
when I went down for the funeral. Then they said, because
Really?
my belly was still there.
Yeah.
You just give birth, your belly has still been there.
And
So it
especially
was when I
stress
had
will be a
yeah.
bit
What
higher.
when I have people in birth, they said to me, "Where's where the baby there? And where they on your side? You're not supposed to hospitalize." And I said, "The baby's fine." And they said, "Rochelle, stop it." And that's when I
Mm,
said to them, I said, "He's in the hospital.
okay.
He's in the hospital."
That's a
And that
strong,
was the worst. 'Cause
that's
that was the only day that
yeah.
I did not visit my child. But I
Okay.
had a friend, Jody, that
Yeah.
she was the one. I had called her and I said, just go and visit him, make sure that he has everything. And she did. So
Okay.
I had support was not a problem. Isolated team was there for me throughout,
Fantastic.
honestly. So
Fantastic.
that was good.
So I heard someone ask the question once and they said, how can you call giving birth a trauma, right? So women would have gone through so many different things during their birth
Yeah.
procedures. Them Jamaica, we say who feels it knows it, right? And if you're not in
Yep.
this situation, you don't. And somebody,
Yeah, I know.
just like you said, you didn't want any congratulations because you felt some type of way. So this particular lady was saying that she was traumatized. And so when she spoke to anybody, like you didn't say anything to anybody, when she eventually opened up and spoke to somebody, what they had to say was, having a child is a blessing. How can you call it a trauma? What would you say about the mindset of others? Because I believe that when sometimes when we're saying things, we're not considering the person that we're speaking to. It's almost like we're looking at ourselves, that we're in our own thought. So, would you consider your birth experience
Traumatic.
yeah.
It's dramatic and traumatic, and I'm traumatized. Honestly, I am. Even until this moment, it's weird for me to say, "Oh, did you plan a pregnancy?" Just even from just the pregnancy plan. How can you plan a pregnancy and didn't really want anybody to know? And how can you leave your child at the hospital? I've questioned myself. But the truth is, if you were in my situation and you understood where I was coming from, I mean, not tell it. How could you not tell your family? They're your back, but no. I didn't want it. And if the persons at the hospital did not know me, or
Yeah.
if they didn't know me, I wouldn't want them to be up there. But I am happy that they came. They made an effort for all who came out. They
Yeah.
made an effort to make me smile. They came with, congratulations, and they have told me a story of, of other persons with their children at that stage, or even younger, that had survived. And
Mhm.
it made,
You hope.
I felt good. But of
Yeah.
course, it's very traumatic. I
Mm.
remember the most traumatic one would have been one day they have called me on the phone, and I didn't want any more call on the phone because I got called a month ago with my dad's date.
Wow.
And once the phone ring, the first thing as a nurse,
Yeah.
you know what's coming next.
Yeah.
And I got a call, but she said, "I'm only calling to update you." And she told me the worst news ever. She said his stomach is bleeding and he's not breathing. He's not breathing on his own. And so therefore we have to put him on ventilator now.
Wow.
Really. Trust me, as she said that, felt a little good, but I felt awful. Medically, I knew in
Yeah.
my head that this might be death.
It's not a good
And
news. Yeah.
this is not
Having
a good
just,
news.
like you said, you just had a call for the death of your dad, and then now you're getting this call, and she's updating you, but it's not a very good update. It wasn't a very good update, was it? So your
No,
son
it
was
wasn't.
on ventilator.
He was on ventilator, CPAP ventilator, all you can think of, NG tube down the, to drain it. So he couldn't have drunk nor anything at all. And my husband at the time, when I heard the news, I remember falling to my knees, just
Wow.
bawling. And my neighbor was calling out, and she was like, "What to the baby?" Because he was updating them. I didn't even tell my neighbors I had baby.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
was literally up because I was in the house for days, just going out, coming in without saying anything that I had come from hospital. And these persons have been persons that have been supporting me from day one.
mm-hmm.
And I just start screaming, and he was updating her. Meanwhile, I was crying, and he was holding me up, of course. But then he was like, "Oh, this it's just a call she gets from the hospital that the baby not so well." And I'm like, "Stop updating people. Me know why you're
Oh
none. Me know
gosh.
why you're none."
Um,
And I'm like, "God, imagine you take daddy." What I was
wow.
furious, Anna.
Wow.
And I remember the man just lift me up, carry me in the room, and put me on my knees, and he prayed. He prayed the entire time. And
Mm,
honestly, the next day that I went to look for my son, it
mm,
became better and better and better. But still, the worst part of it was that I didn't even. You said traumatic.
mhm,
Traumatic is when you have no idea what this person has been through. I didn't even have a name. I didn't have
mm.
a name for myself. I didn't want to name him because I'm thinking about if I name him and he dies. Every time I hear that name, I'm going to die. It
Wow.
was
Wow.
it was awful. So
Wow.
allow people to be in their moment.
Yeah.
If people don't want to have a child, it's also okay.
Yeah.
Stop telling people that one pitney and nothing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because my one child is everything.
Yeah.
But it was awful. It is traumatic. And people should allow people to vent.
Did you ever like seek medical help, like psychological help? Did you ever speak to anybody professionally about what was going on, or even what's going on even now? Have you ever, like, we're talking about it. I'm actually taking you from the journey right back now. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's the first that you actually had to revisit, because even I'm even fighting tears myself listening to you, because the
Mhm.
thing is that we're friends, and honestly I didn't
Mhm.
even know that you were going through this psychologically,
Mhm.
and it can be a lot on an individual. And I know that you've got your husband, and I know that you've got a very supportive family.
Yes, they are.
But then it's like, even though I wasn't in with you, I wasn't in Jamaica
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
At this time, I would. But even if I was there, I don't know if I would have been one of the ones that went up and down with the hospital, of course. I
Oh
mean,
God,
I
man,
did
long
definitely
time.
know that. But just emotionally,
Yeah.
have you actually seek any sort of, did you feel like that was
No.
accessible for you? Did you feel you wanted to, for one?
Yes,
Did you feel like
I
you needed
wanted to. Of course, of course I did. Of course I did. But most of my time was actually like spent running up and down, because even with having a premature baby, even after the baby had come home, I had tests to run from here to the last toe. Honest to
test
God,
for
there
you
was
or for baby?
the baby. I was fine.
Okay.
I was fine. I was just in pain, C-section pain and all of that. But the baby had tests to be run like every other day. So I was always on the road. So having time to have a mental breakdown, of course it was there. And my husband was my husband, my mom, she was
Mhm.
super there. My friends, isolated team, they were always there. But yes, if I had the possibly if I had expressed myself
Yeah.
to probably certain people, then I would have gotten, some encouragement to seek some
Mhm.
advice. But I am not against doing psychological evaluations. No, I'm
Yeah.
not that person. I think they mostly understand than anybody else on
Yeah.
how to control yourself per se. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So obviously you had to leave the baby, and then the baby came home. How long after did the baby actually come home? How long did the baby stay in hospital?
It was 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks, 6 days. Yeah. It was
Okay.
3 weeks, 6 days. Yeah.
And did you feel like the
So nearly a month.
separation between you and baby, not being there with him like 24 hours of the day, did that have any impact on you? Did it affect your relationship with the baby at any way? What was your first home, first day, first night? How
Was
was that?
excited. It was excited, but then scared because I'm a new mom. I don't know what to expect. How am I going to keep a human being alive? It was awful, but I had help. I had help. Anybody ever said you to have children and listen, they say, I'm going to help you. And they did. My neighbors, they were there. I remember coming home. One of my nursing colleagues, she was the one that carried me home because my husband was in Ochi working.
Mhm.
And he said, all right, I am coming. And she was the one that brought me home. And I text my neighbors and I said, I am on my way. Can you assist? And she said, you don't have to ask that. And she was
Mhm.
at the gate. I didn't know what to do, of course. Not that knowing I don't know how to hold him. Because remember, in hospital, if you had your child from the beginning, a nurse would have come in and teach you how to hold the baby and how
Mhm.
to feed the baby. I did not go through any of that. My child child was taken away from me because he was not breathing adequately.
Yeah.
So definitely I didn't know what to do, but I had the support.
Okay.
I won't lie. Yeah, so that was
That's
good. If I
that.
had treated him differently, it was more of me just being scared that I was going to break him because he was very little. He had weighed 5 pounds when he was born, and then he had lost weight. So
Okay.
he was very, very fine.
Mm.
So how to hold him was the biggest issue. But no, I
Yeah.
still felt the connection, to be honest. And I am happy because I
Yeah.
was praying that after all he had went through, please
Yeah,
do not
that's
give
3 weeks
me
is a long time for a
PTSD.
newborn. Yeah, to be separated from a mother, that's a very long time. So, and I guess
Yeah.
that had to do with your drive as well. Probably just your
Yeah.
determination to actually bond with your baby, and you breastfed,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
You
I
breastfed.
breastfed. Oh, I was flooding. Yes. So
Ah,
yes, I
that's
breastfed.
a blessing. That is a blessing. Cesarean mothers tend to find it very difficult to actually breastfeed, and
Because of
not
the
just that,
pain.
but then your baby
Mm.
was separated from you physically. So the
Yeah.
stimulation, the whole arousal, them not being there to arouse the milk production and stuff. So that's if there's any advice, we're coming towards our ends now. If there's any
Mm.
advice you could give to not just like mothers, to the health professionals more so about how they can support women during birth, what would you say?
The most one is mostly of what would it be? I was so supported, to be honest. The only issue I had was I don't think they could have stopped it, and it was just the fact that you put in persons that had even lost their child or doesn't have the child beside them to put them with people. I think it's more of a government situation where we need to stop doing that. Like have a separation for them. Honestly, let the ones that had either lost their baby or whatever be in a place where, because they all know what they are going through. They're going through, some people it's well, I didn't really want this one anyway, so probably a God gives making gone. But
Mhm.
there are others that wanted, and with them in one space, it would have been better than putting them in a place where, I don't know, it wasn't just I was not going to be happy I wasn't happy myself. How could I be happy for somebody else? And that
Mhm.
was my most biggest problem.
Yeah.
When it comes on to, I was told by a nurse to a nurse that she was supposed to give me one of the control drugs.
Mhm.
And she come to me and she said, you're not supposed to be taking too much of them, something you will get addicted.
Mm. And this was the
Like,
control drug. Was it a pain relief?
it was a
Was
pain relief. It was right. It was a pain relief. And I was very furious because I'm like, I am in
so in
so
pain.
much pain. And this lady want
Wow.
to give me like Baralgin.
Wow.
And honestly, even though I am a nurse, I was not working at the time, so I did not advocate for myself. I just said to
Right.
her, what you have to give me anything.
So
That's
you're saying
fine.
in that instant, pain is subjective and it's you that's
Exactly.
feeling the pain. So instead of automatically think, and this was how many days after? This was
It
just a
was
day.
the next day after, because I
Yeah.
didn't stay in hospital
You
for
had a
long. It
major,
was just the next day after the
you had a
surgery. The
major
surgery happened like
operation.
1 o'clock the night, and then it was
Yeah.
just the next day after.
So it's
That
not
means
like
I'm still
you
constantly
haven't
in.
been on these pain medications for like days. You literally just had a major operation and okay, wow. So you
So
had to go.
that was
Mhm.
my biggest issue with them. Something else came up with them. Oh, this one I hate it because my child was hospitalized. Or you're checking up on my child. I don't think it is right only for mothers. This is my biggest, for mothers to be the only one to visit. It's
Mhm.
not that they're the only ones, but they prefer mothers to visit more than the dad. And
Mhm.
honestly, I don't think it is right. I think
Yeah.
both of us had made the child.
Yes.
And I think both of us should have been involved
I
in
agree.
everything, decision, because you and I now understand what's going on. It is our child that is at risk.
Yeah.
So you might be there as a nurse rubbing my back, but you got work to do, so you're going to leave me at either point.
Right.
But at least when daddy come in, he can make some suggestions or say something, calm
Yeah.
me down, and I calm him down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every time that I
And
was
the child
about to
also
visit,
needs to hear the
I was
father's voice, isn't it? The child needs to bond also with his dad. So the child needs to hear
exactly,
the voice as well. He was hearing the father's voice all this time in utero. So guys,
exactly.
this is an issue. So Rochelle gave birth in Jamaica. This is an issue that we've got in
Yeah.
Jamaica. Oftentimes the dads are left outside, what we would have said outside. Like you're not really, even if it's a vaginal delivery, spontaneous vaginal delivery, they're not allowed in the room. The mother goes in and then boom, the mother comes back out with the child and the father is not involved. So this is an ongoing issue that we've got. I know that it's not the same for every country because I believe here in the UK, I think the dad would have been able to see and visit. And I think they include the dads a little bit more than they
Mm. Yeah.
than they do back home where
Definitely.
we're from. I think the dads can still be included a lot more, even in the UK, to be honest, because sometimes I feel like, especially even in emergency situation, they are shoved aside in the room and everything is
Yeah.
just happening around them. But I strongly, that's something that I strongly advocate for. Men need to understand what women are going.
Yes.
Men need to understand the severity of the whole birth process, the whole birthing, delivery. Everything. They were there with the woman before, and they've been there
Yeah.
up at that point. Why not let them be there to
Yeah.
to the completion of everything? So those were your three things that you would say to the health professionals. Be considerate, basically, is what I'm hearing from you, where
Yes.
there's a loss or there's some severity or some trauma. Be considerate about the woman's psychology, the woman's mind, where she's at emotionally. Pain is subjective. That's massive. Pain is subjective, so you cannot dictate what, and it's only like day zero, basically, right?
Yeah.
And then also the last one you said was inclusion of the dads, to include
Yeah.
the fathers more so. Okay. Well, thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing. I know taking you back in time is not necessarily the best sometimes, even though for some people, yes. But
That's
we
good.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. I just remember when I heard about these things, you're the first person that actually came to mind. I was like, Rochelle, I had to that. How did you? Because we haven't really spoken like in
Yeah.
detail about what really happened
Yeah.
time. And I know that you was going through a lot at the time. So thank you very, very, very much for sharing your
That's
experience
all.
with us. Much appreciated. And ladies and gents and family members, like I was saying before, in the UK, I know that there is the Birth Trauma Association. I'll put it
Yeah.
on the screen somewhere, that if you desire any help psychologically from a birth trauma that you would have gone through, or just how you're feeling, any post, if you think that some people, you can Google it. Sometimes I don't like to send people on the internet for Google, because Google Universe sometimes is not the best, but you can Google some symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And then we've also got post-traumatic stress symptoms. So you can identify whether you fall in that category. And if so, please, please, please seek help. We want healthy people emotionally. We want healthy mothers, healthy babies, healthy dads,
Mhm.
birth partners, emotionally, to go through this journey. But like I said, again, thank you so very much
You're
for sharing
welcome.
your experience with us. And yeah, I mean, you can drop a comment in the comment section below, guys. What was your experience like? If you were affected in any way, shape, or form, what would you advise the health professionals to do differently in your scenario? I don't know if I can have anybody else on live or on recording to share their experience. I will try and see, but comment below. Let us know your experience, how you even got help. If there's a way that you got help, let us know so that somebody else can benefit from that. All right. And until the next video, guys, remember to like, share,
Subscribe.
and subscribe. Thank you so much. All right, Rochelle, have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
All right.
Bye
Bye bye. Thanks for
bye.
having me. Bye guys.
You're welcome. Bye.